Have you ever wondered why some people who have nothing are the happiest, while those who have everything feel empty? Today's story is about Clara, a woman facing a relentless drought and an empty buffalo horn that turned a tragedy into a miracle. High above the jagged, sun-scorched peaks of the Great West, where the air feels like a furnace and the earth cracks like shattered glass, lived an elderly woman named Clara. Her home was a humble, rusting wooden shack perched precariously on a lonely hill, a place where the wind whispered secrets of old and the silence was often her only companion. Clara possessed very little of the world's wealth, but she guarded an ancient, hollow buffalo horn, as if it were a scepter made of the purest gold and rarest diamonds. Every morning, before the sun could even crest the horizon, she would step onto her barren plot of land to work the soil, with hands that were as calloused as the bark of an ancient oak tree. Though her harvest was often meager, barely enough to fill a single bowl, Clara would raise her eyes to the vast, indifferent sky and offer a prayer of profound gratitude for the breath in her lungs. She thanked the scorching sun for its light, the biting wind for its movement, and the very dust beneath her feet for supporting her through another day of existence. One particular autumn, the heavens turned to brass and refused to yield a single drop of rain, leaving the crops to wither and die until the fields were nothing but a graveyard of yellowed stalks. With her pantry bare and her hope tested, Clara gripped her empty buffalo horn, usually reserved for gathering wild berries, and decided to trek deep into the unknown valleys in search of sustenance. She walked for hours through skeletal forests and over scorched ridges, her feet aching and her spirit weary. Yet she found nothing but parched earth and the echoes of a dying landscape. Exhausted and feeling the heavy weight of her years, she finally collapsed into the shade of a massive, gnarled oak tree that seemed to be the last living sentinel in a world of gray. If you believe that even the hardest times carry a hidden blessing, comment yes below to manifest a breakthrough in your own journey. Clara sat there in the profound silence, staring into the dark, hollow opening of her buffalo horn, realizing that it contained absolutely nothing but the cool air of the afternoon. Instead of weeping or cursing her misfortune, she smiled gently and whispered a thank you to the horn, grateful that its emptiness gave her a reason to sit and reflect in the quiet of the woods. Suddenly, the rustle of dry leaves broke her meditation as a man emerged from the deep shadows, looking like a ghost, with sunken eyes and hair matted by weeks of travel and grime. He was a traveler who had been swallowed by the labyrinth of the forest for 3 days, his strength completely evaporated and his hope for survival flickering like a candle in a gale. He looked at Clara and her empty horn with a desperate longing, fearing that he had finally reached the end of his road in this desolate, unforgiving wilderness. Clara did not recoil in fear of the stranger. Instead, she looked at him with eyes full of a strange, radiant peace that seemed to defy the harsh reality of their surroundings. She told him that while the horn was empty, its very emptiness was the reason she was still sitting there, waiting to be the guide he so desperately needed to find his way back. Have you ever felt lost in a forest of your own problems? Type 1 if you are currently searching for your path and need a sign to keep going. From the depths of her tattered pocket, she produced a small, hard crust of dry bread, the very last of her food, and offered it to the stranger without a moment of hesitation or regret. She then led him through a secret, winding trail hidden by overgrown briars, a path known only to those who have spent a lifetime listening to the rhythm of the mountain. Upon reaching her small shack, she built a crackling fire that cast long, dancing shadows against the walls, providing the warmth and safety the man had forgotten existed. For several days, Clara tended to the stranger with the tenderness of a mother, sharing her meager water and the warmth of her hearth until the color returned to his hollow cheeks. When the traveler finally regained his strength, he wept with gratitude, realizing that this woman with nothing had given him everything he needed to survive the darkness. He departed, after giving her a small bag of rice and some sturdy wood, promising that the seeds of her kindness would one day grow into a forest of unimaginable joy. Clara returned to her quiet life, once again alone on her hill. Yet she felt richer than a queen, because her heart was full of the peace that comes from selfless service. Weeks passed as the seasons began to shift, and one afternoon, the sound of carriage wheels and hoofbeats echoed through the valley, breaking the eternal silence of Clara's lonely hill. The traveler had returned, but he was no longer a ghost of a man. He was dressed in fine clothes and accompanied by a young woman whose eyes mirrored Clara's own. To Clara's overwhelming shock, the woman was her long-lost daughter, who had vanished into the world years ago, and had been found by the very traveler Clara had saved. If you believe that what you give to the world will always find its way back to you, share this story with someone who needs to hear these life lessons today. The man had used his resources to track down the daughter Clara thought was gone forever, turning a simple act of sharing bread into a miraculous family reunion. As they embraced under the vast western sky, Clara realized that the empty buffalo horn had not been a symbol of her poverty, but a vessel for a miracle yet to be born. The drought eventually broke, and the rains returned to wash away the dust, but the landscape of Clara's life had been permanently transformed by the power of her perspective. She understood now that abundance is not measured by what is held in the hand, but by the level of gratitude held within the deepest chambers of the human soul. Her story spread through the valleys like a gentle stream, teaching everyone that a heart that says thank you, even in the desert, will eventually find its own oasis. Life is often like that empty horn. It may look like a void of lack, but it is actually a space waiting to be filled with the echoes of our faith and kindness. Clara and her daughter rebuilt the farm together, turning the barren hillside into a lush garden where the buffalo horn hung prominently by the door as a sacred reminder. It reminded every traveler who passed by that gratitude is the bridge between where you are and where you are meant to be, regardless of how little you think you have. We often wait for the harvest to be grateful, but the secret of the wise is to be grateful for the soil, the sun, and even the empty seasons of waiting. When you stop complaining about what is missing, you finally give the universe the space it needs to bring you exactly what has been searching for you all along. This journey of Clara teaches us that our greatest tragedies are often just the rough packaging for our most magnificent and unexpected miracles. Let her life be a lantern for your own soul, guiding you through the dark valleys of doubt and toward the high peaks of unwavering, joyful appreciation for life. Remember that the world does not give you what you want. It reflects back to you the beauty and the light that you are willing to see in others. May you find the courage to be grateful for your empty horns. And if this story touched your heart, please share it and subscribe to join our community of seekers.